You're not allowed to participate in the economy unless you're online, and that entire online environment is completely surveilled, including all your financial transactions. This is about an insane new surveillance paradigm. And this isn't just about surveilling what you do in the present moment or what you've done in the past. This is using all of that data from past and present, feeding it into AI, and using it to predict if you'll engage in naughty behavior.
Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I opted to put this video out instead of my news video today, which I may still put out later on in the day because there is a lot of news to cover. We are headed towards something that a lot of us in the Western world have not experienced in our lifetimes or in our past. However, there are experiences that are happening in other places. So I want to share some of that with you to show you what's coming if we don't resist. Like JFK said, all you have to do is resist. AI will pretty much tell you what you want to know as long as you ask it in different ways. There are some things that it just doesn't want to answer, but if you ask it in different ways, it'll tell you what you need to know. And all of the information that it gathers is from the internet, right? It's from space, pretty much. So I wanted to go ahead and see what AI would tell me about the phrase that we've heard so much about, because we haven't really been hearing about it very often lately. It's kind of like gone out of style, which is exactly what the rulers want, is they want us to forget about it while they're working on it in the background. So here you can see that I asked AI, what is the meaning behind "you'll own nothing and be happy"? Have you ever asked yourselves that question? And we can see it happening little by little. Have you heard of some car brands that you purchase a vehicle, let's just say from BMW. You purchase a vehicle. It comes with a heated steering wheel, with heated seats. It comes with this option, that option, or Tesla comes with all of these options that you can have on your vehicle. Well, you purchase the vehicle and then you find out a few months later that, hey, if you want your heated seats to work, it has to be on a subscription. You have to subscribe and pay a monthly fee so that you can use this function on a vehicle that you already purchased. So AI's answer to me right here, you can see it's a future where people, and it says by choice, but you'll see further on that it's not going to be by choice. Rely on shared services and sharing economy for their needs rather than owning personal property. So that tells you everything right there, that the WEF's goal with "you'll own nothing and be happy" is that we literally own nothing. So I asked it, if no one owns anything, then who gets paid for the subscription fee and rent? Because you see, you won't be able to own a home. You'll have to rent it. You won't be able to own a car. You'll have to rent it. You'll have to have a subscription fee. So your standard of living will depend solely on that entity that will or will not allow you to rent whatever it is that you need for your life. The subscription fees and rent are paid to large corporations or service providers that own the shared goods and properties. So someone or some entity does own everything that you will then have to subscribe to and rent. I went on to ask, then it is the corporations that own everything. And it says various corporations and service providers would own the assets. They would own the physical assets and then rent them out to individuals on a subscription basis. This is what they want, but why? In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, 100% control. And I'll go ahead and skip ahead a little bit here. I'll probably say more than I should because this is covered later on. But what they want to do is give you a digital ID. They want to give you a digital wallet that governs your money and your financial status, an ID that says everything that there is to know about you. And then they will decide whether you can access these systems based on a credit score.
And this dystopian outrage that is now all of China, apparently, is I once again cannot buy food. A couple days ago, my uncle and my cousin helped me get a cell phone that is linked to a Chinese bank card so that I could buy anything. But now, apparently, it has been flagged for some reason, and I have to pass facial recognition identity verification, which is insane because all I want to do is just spend my gift card balance on this debit card.
Remember, not too long ago, we used to not have to have a real ID to travel from state to state when we get on a plane. And I believe that that is now effective nationwide. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But that real ID is just the beginning. I can see something happening before the next presidential election. In order for you to be able to vote, we're going to need a real ID. Then, maybe a year later or 2 years later, there may be some kind of a huge cyber attack, be it a false flag or not. They're going to come out and say, hey, listen, in order for you to be able to get on the internet, we are going to need to be able to verify who you are, just so that you can get on the internet. And it's just going to continue little by little, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Hegelian or Hegelian dialectic, however you pronounce it. It is they create a problem, and then they will see how the people react to that problem, and then provide a solution that they feel that the majority of the people will adhere to without too much pushback. In addition to my question about the corporations owning everything, it says corporations own and manage these assets at scale, optimizing their use and generating consistent revenue through subscription fees or rent. We will be nothing but cattle to these people, nothing but a number on a screen, and nothing for them to care about, whether our digital IDs, our digital wallets, or our social credit score is in good standing. You'll be nothing but a number, ladies and gentlemen. Who owns the corporations? Their shareholders, who can include a mix of institutional investors, private individuals, so you'll be able to own part of a corporation as a layman, families, and sometimes other corporations, or, this is the big one, governments. No matter who is the CEO of USA Corp, do you really trust that government will have your best interest in mind if this system is pushed through? Governments. Some governments hold stakes in corporations through sovereign wealth funds or direct national ownership, often as a result of nationalization or financial crisis. Remember the false flag that I was talking about in the beginning? How it is that they may institute this kind of a system here in the US or in other Western nations? A financial crisis like no other, in my opinion, will unveil throughout this generation. And I don't want to say tomorrow, I don't want to say by the year this or that, but it will unveil in our lifetimes, at least for the next generation, because this is a very slow process. That train is headed toward a wall. It just depends on how fast it hits that wall. Right now, the train has slowed down some, but depending on who's in the administration next and the time after that and the time after that will depend on how fast that train finally hits that wall, because it's going to hit it. So in my opinion, a huge financial crisis or a huge type of a cyber event, which will create a financial crisis, or a huge kind of a blackout event, which will create a financial crisis, will occur. It's not going to be nuclear war. This is going to be worse than a nuclear war, ladies and gentlemen. That's my opinion. I'm not trying to scare anyone, but this is where we are, and this is where we're headed if they have their way. In the you'll own nothing scenario, while individuals wouldn't own personal property, the ultimate beneficiaries of the system are the existing shareholders of the large corporations that would own the world's shared assets. And do you really believe that you as a private citizen would own enough shares in order to make a difference in how the system runs? Then I ask, but if we own nothing, then how can private individuals own shares in corporations? Private individuals can own shares in a corporation even in a scenario where they don't own any physical property like homes or cars, because owning a share is a distinct non-physical form of property. The idea that people would own nothing in the WEF's speculative essay refers to personal assets like vehicle and appliances, not financial assets such as stock. So here they're trying to put your mind at ease, saying you will, as an individual, be able to own shares. But then I roll back to that question I just asked. Do you think that you, as a private individual, right, are going to be able to own enough shares in order to make a difference on the decision making as a whole? I would say not. So this system is being developed for those that are already part of the 0.01%, ladies and gentlemen, not for your benefit or anyone's benefit except for theirs. Look, if you are a multimillionaire, let's say that your net worth is $10 million, right? Which to today's standards is not incredibly rich, right? You can go out there and you can buy yourself a ribeye, let's say, that is the best ribeye that there is, and you wouldn't mind spending $200 a pound for it. It would do nothing to your net worth. That's just another day for you, right? If you own $10 million. So you can get the best steak that there is and think nothing about it. If you are a billionaire, you can't get a steak that's better than that steak that a person that only has a $10 million net worth is. A steak can only be as good as it can be. So you can get that same steak. Again, it would be nothing to you. If you are a multi-billionaire, let's say you own hundreds of billions of dollars, like Elon Musk, let's say, he can't get a steak that's any better than the steak that the guy that's only worth $10 million got, because it's the best steak that there is. So once these people get in positions where they are trillionaires, and trust me, there are trillionaires in this world, they no longer hunger for that steak. They no longer hunger for that $4.5, $5, $10 million sports car. They no longer hunger for that $250 million yacht. What they hunger for is power. And how do they obtain power? By making you conform to their ideology or to whatever it is that they want you to do. Who will be in charge of the corporations that own everything? The corporations that own the world's asset in this hypothetical scenario would be controlled through their existing governance structure, primarily by the major shareholders. Remember, you will own nothing. Even if you own a share, you will not own autonomy over yourself, board of directors, and top executives. So if you fall within one of these major categories, you'll be fine. While the corporations in this model would still technically operate within the legal framework set by existing governments, their immense economic power and control over essential services could lead to a system where they exert a level of influence over daily life that rivals or even exceeds that of traditional government. It's kind of like too big to fail, right? JP Morgan can pretty much do anything it wants. Why? Because it's got such a monopoly on the transaction of funds throughout our country. I think they put like $7 trillion through a day. JP Morgan goes through about $7 trillion worth of transactions in a day. They have so much power that if the government decides to shut them down, they'll just collapse the system. I mean, ask Bernie Madoff who his banker was during the time that he was being convicted for having the biggest Ponzi scheme in U.S. history. The biggest private Ponzi scheme. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that we are living in a Ponzi scheme. Anyways, I digress. And the Ponzi scheme is the dollar, by the way. But if you look it up, I believe that it is JP Morgan that was Bernie Madoff's banker during that time. And did they say anything? Did they get in trouble? No. And that was way back then. Today, if they fail, it'll be even more catastrophic to the financial system. What they need to do is they need to split these big banks up into a lot of small banks. However, the opposite is happening. Toward the end of this current system, all of the smaller banks will be dissolved and absorbed into the big banks, and we'll end up having only a few big banks to service all of our people. Now, I hate reading verbatim. However, I think this is so important that I need to read it out loud in case you're traveling and just listening to this. How corporate power might resemble government power, but I'll tell you why it's a lot worse than government power. Control over resources. By owning all essential assets, these corporations would effectively control people's access to basic necessities, a power usually associated with the state. And I'll tell you right now why it's a lot worse than government. Because you will not have a vote unless you're one of these mega billionaires that's in the top 0.01%. Dictating the rules. Instead of laws, people would be bound by extensive terms of service and subscription agreements. A violation could result in the loss of one's home, access to transportation, or other vital services, essentially an economic eviction without the due process of traditional legal systems. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not me saying this. Yes, this is AI, but it's from stuff that it took out of the internet from places that have actually written this into their plan and are in the process of trying to make it a reality. Surveillance and data collection. The reliance on technology and digital platforms for all services would allow corporations to collect vast amounts of data on individuals, monitoring their movements, consumption habits, and behaviors.
Today in China, there are some 600 million surveillance cameras, one for every 2 citizens, able to track people's movements down to the minute.
Every street corner, there's facial recognition, there's digital recognition, there's the social credit system, and with AI and all sorts of other sophisticated programming, you can know exactly where a person is because he'll have bought something with a credit card or a digital payment system. They will know everything about everybody real time. This creates a kind of a techno-autocratic system that's unprecedented and with which we've had no experience.
Corporations have different goals than governments. A government's goal is ostensibly to serve the people, or it should be, while a corporation's goal is to generate profit for shareholders. Decisions would be made by executives and boards of directors, not democratically elected representatives, leading to a lack of accountability to the general populace. Remember, it's the major banks, the big banks, they're going to be in charge of all of this, and they need a way to account for it, and that is tokenization. So I asked, is tokenization part of the plan in the you'll own nothing scenario? And it said tokenization is not part of the original plan, but it is a related concept actively explored and promoted by the World Economic Forum in its discussion on the future of finance and ownership. Let's see what it says. The original scenario, the 2016 essay, described a future where individuals do not own personal or physical properties, but instead access them as a service through subscription and renting. The underlying assets are owned entirely by large corporations, and we went over that. However, tokenization using blockchain technology is a separate but parallel discussion at the WEF that deals with transforming how ownership is recorded and traded. It involves taking a physical asset like real estate, for example, or a financial asset like your stock or a bond, and creating digital tokens that represent fractional ownerships of that asset. So tokenization is going to be a way to digitize property and a way to track everything. Then I asked it, what if a person does not want to participate? The original WEF essay that the phrase comes from describes a potential future where individuals voluntarily, of course, ladies and gentlemen, that's what they want you to believe, opt into a sharing economy because it's more convenient and efficient. But we already do that now. We already voluntarily opt into a sharing economy. A lot of people rent. A lot of people subscribe, right? The only difference would be is that large corporations would own everything instead of individual citizens. In that specific hypothetical scenario, not participating would simply mean continuing to own physical property, but potentially at a higher cost or with less convenience than the dominant access model. Who's the dominant access model? Corporations. Now listen to this. However, in the more critical, and they say dystopian interpretation, because they want to make you sound like you're crazy if you believe that this is the way it will eventually end up. That phrase often evokes a person who does not want to participate could face significant challenges and negative consequences. And what would these be? Economic disadvantage. Just like that lady from China who could not use her gift card because there was a problem with her digital wallet or her digital ID, same thing could happen to you. If you say something wrong, guess what? Your digital wallet is shut off until you can fix it. Social and financial isolation, same thing. If they want to shut you out of the economy, they can. If they want to go ahead and evict you, all right, digitally evict you, then they can, because you own nothing. You have no rights except for those under the subscription service that you agreed to. Loss of freedom and autonomy, that's a given. Difficulty building wealth. How can you build wealth when your wealth is at the hand of someone that dictates how you can spend it or how you can save it? They can put a cap on how much you can build up in savings, and if you don't spend the money above that certain amount, let's say $1,000, right, to make it easy. Let's say you can only have up to $1,000 in your savings at all time. If it goes above $1,000, for every day that you have it above $1,000, we're going to go ahead and tax it 10%.
In cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that.
They can do anything because these digital wallets that they're going to issue everyone will be programmable. Have you heard of programmable money? That's exactly what a digital wallet would be. And then I asked it, how would wealth be accumulated in this scenario? Well, you could probably answer that question by now after hearing what I've read. Wealth would be accumulated primarily through ownership of financial assets and intellectual property, rather than physical property like real estate or consumer goods. Wealth would be concentrated in the hands of major shareholders. Remember, I told you that you would be able to own shares, but you won't be a major shareholder, at least not the layman won't. And executives of the corporations that own and manage the subscription-based services. In this scenario, will a digital ID be mandatory? While the original WEF scenario did not explicitly state that a digital ID would be mandatory, it is widely considered to be an essential and likely mandatory component in any such system where individuals do not own physical assets. Did you see the clip of the UK Prime Minister, I think they're called over there, where he said, by the end of my term, everyone will have a digital ID or they will not be able to work. In a system built entirely on access to services provided by corporations, a reliable and universal method of identification is crucial for several reasons. Assessing services. A digital ID would be the primary mechanism for a person to access a shared car, enter their rented apartment, receive social benefits, etc. Verification and authentication. That's why I said that eventually they will require us to put in some kind of a digital ID before we can use a computer or the internet. Service providers will need to instantly and securely verify who is using a service to manage billing, ensure eligibility, and prevent fraud. Tracking and management. Everything you do will be tracked, ladies and gentlemen, plain and simple. Monetary transaction. In this model, nearly every interaction would be a microtransaction or a subscription payment. A digital ID linked to a digital wallet would be necessary to process these transactions seamlessly and ensure they are tied to the correct individual. It's for your own good. Let me know if you like these types of videos. I was thinking about this, so I decided to have a little bit of fun with the AI. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, that AI pulls a lot of this information from the internet, so it's out there for you to look at it on an individual basis. This just compiles everything and searches it a lot faster than what an individual could. So is this the kind of world that you want to live in? How do we resist? By being prepared. I've never heard of any kind of a unit going into battle without rehearsing first. When I was in Afghanistan, we used to rehearse every mission before we went out. We used to go out there and do it over and over again. We used to memorize our radio frequencies, our locations, our rally points, etc. Right? We used to learn all that stuff, memorize it all, and just rehearse before we went and did what we had to do. So get prepared, because this is going to be the rehearsal into what life is going to be if they get their way. And hopefully we won't have to meet them in battle, and we can resolve this peaceably with our vote and with our voices. Having said that, I hope that you're having a great week so far. Remember that SIMPURE is still having that awesome sale that they extended to the AP community. And if you go watch this video, you'll be able to enter to win a reverse osmosis system. It goes through today and tomorrow. The 5th is the end. After that, SIMPURE is going to let me know how many RO systems I'm going to be able to give away to those of you that entered. So good luck to all of you. If you haven't watched that video and you don't have an RO system, watch that video. I can pretty much guarantee you that by the end of it, you'll be wanting to get one, because our water is nothing but poison. But I digress. God bless every one of you. All right, I love every one of you. So thank you for being here. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.
This is going to happen here, I think, too, although maybe people will fight it. If a traffic camera catches you jaywalking in China, the digital ID system has you, has your blood, has your genetic code, has your photograph. It can identify how you walk. So even if you can't see a face, you can be picked up by a gate. It will convict you of jaywalking and take money out of your bank account with no intermediating judiciary at all, and show a picture of you to the people in the neighborhood so they know that you have jaywalked, and reduce your social credit score. And if your social credit score falls below a certain level, you can't buy drinks from a vending machine. You can't play video games. You can't go on a train. You can't get out of your 15-minute city.